See what happens here. Cool. Good afternoon, folks. Welcome along to another episode of Friday Beers. Grab your beers, strap yourselves in. This one promises to be a cracker. With yesterday's announcement being a sigh of relief to some South Africans that life will slowly start to get back to some version of normal next week. To those in the craft beer industry, the end does not look in sight anytime soon. Whilst the president mentioned the lifting on the ban of cigarettes, there was no mention of alcohol, perhaps his cabinet of heavy smokers, or perhaps the lobbyists of British American Tobacco and the likes have more sway. But we'll ask what more can be done to lift this ban on alcohol. I'm joined today by three legends of the South African craft beer scene who have all been around since the early days. Firstly, I'd like to wish Marc a bloody happy birthday. Thanks for joining us, man.
Cheers, man.
Cheers, Marc.
34 years young today. Yes.
I thought you said you were 21.
No, it's 34 now.
Also joined by, as you can see, Nick from Drifter and Bruce from Stellies.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers. Thanks for joining us, guys. So this week we saw a fantastic feat by Woodstock Brewery to turn their brewery into a soup kitchen to feed the thousands of South African people that are starving during lockdown that have been really hit the hardest. And Bruce, I see you guys are doing something very similar. So tell us a bit about that initiative.
Yeah, so really cool. It was the same night that I was busy reading up what the hell were the breweries doing in the States in the 1920s to basically survive through prohibition. And, you know, they were talking about making ice cream, making ceramics. To be honest, I can't take the credit. Then the next thing I looked at one of the WhatsApp groups I'm on, and Andre was announcing that they're opening a soup kitchen. And I was like, well, geez, there can't be enough of those around. And we did some research. We've partnered up. We've managed to raise quite a bit of funds to get started. And that's just friends and family at this stage. So we're punting it hard, and we do our first batch on Freedom Day. And we have partnered with a bunch of guys called Kos vir Skole. We've been doing it for 22 years. It's a school feeding program. And obviously the kids are not home, but still not getting fed what's needed and still expected to do schoolwork from home. So yeah, you can't learn on an empty stomach. And the idea is that we just convert our brew house to make 1,000-liter batches of soup while we're not allowed to make beer.
It's fantastic, man. I mean, really, it's phenomenal to the extent that people have come together to try and help the guys out that are even less fortunate than like you guys are in the situation with not being able to have a business or sell beer or pay your staff, you know. But I mean, some of the guys out there are in even worse. And like you say, the school meals for people are often one of the only meals they'll get for the day, probably the only hot meal that some kids will get that day. And obviously with schools being closed and that being taken away, it's fantastic. It shouldn't really come down to people like you guys and to feed the country. That should be more from a government point of view, but the fact that you are is great. So yeah, well done.
Nice work, Bruce. Can I ask a question about that? How does it work from a logistics side of thing? I mean, we obviously would love to get involved if there's more. I spoke to Andre, he's doing the first batch today, but how do you actually, are you just using the kettle, and what are you doing and how are you packaging it?
Yeah, so we'll obviously learn as we go along, just as you do when you start a brewery, you learn your own equipment. But yeah, we've got a recipe that we've worked on with the Kos vir Skole guys. So making sure it's not too thick, making sure it's not too thin, making sure it'll get through our pump. We obviously have pumps that can push mash, so provided it's not more thick than the mash, and we're not going to put any animal bones through it. We'll either do that separately and brew stock separately, but it's only going to be the nutritionist vegetable stock soup that we're putting into the mash tun. We've got the beauty that we've also got the kettle, so we've added a third vessel, so we could actually do 2,000 liters at a time. How long does it make a batch of soup? We could do multiple batches a day. So at this stage, we're starting off with one batch a day, and if the need is there, we'll ramp it up.
So you add all the ingredients into the kettle or mash tun, mix it up, heat it up.
Use the agitators.
And then what are you putting it in order to distribute it?
So
That's
at
the
this stage, we've got a few options. Originally, the main plan was to stick it into a 1,000 liter flow bin, get the guys from Kos for Skole to pull up with a bucky and then drive from school to school. And yeah, the idea is that, obviously we focus 100% on sanitation. So
sure.
we've sourced a food grade, a couple of food grade flow bins, complete CRP sanitation process on them, make sure they're clean, get the soup in there and get it to the school the same day or the morning after it's made. And but we've got other options. We were able to fortunately empty a lot of our fermenters before the lockdown. So I'm even thinking, you know what, if the demand is there, we can start filling fermenters and keep it cold.
And then just don't clean when you're done, and you can just make
have it ready to go out.
When we're allowed to sell beer again, you can just make a soup IPA for a while.
Mm.
And what's
soupy brown ale? Mm.
Yummy.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people have asked, is it going to affect the beers? How's it going to,
no, of course not. Just give it a good CIP.
Yeah. Exactly. We clean between a lager and an IPA, so you don't have transfer.
Caustic will get rid of a lot of shit, eh?
Exactly. Yeah.
So Trevor says he's coming live from the Woodstock Soup Kitchen today. Such a great initiative. Awesome. Danny says happy birthday, Marc, or to the absolute legend, Marc. Wish we could be bearing hard today. Dan, and also hi to all the other guys. Trevor says give us a smile, Marc. Brewcake Tap says cheers.
Does Marc know how to smile?
I don't know.
Just have to ask nicely, Nick.
Smile, mother. Smile.
Tracy says, how's it all? Happy birthday, Fareed.
Hello, Tracy.
What else? Phil Lowry says, nice to see Nick with clothes on.
I always have clothes on. What are you talking about?
Often you're depicting Jesus on the cross. No, you missed that.
Jesus on the cross.
Yeah, when you're depicting that, then you don't have many clothes on. Oh shit, Aaron told me to cough into my elbow. As I was fucking coughing into my hands there, I thought some bastard's going to pick up on that as well. Fuck you, beer pants.
Can you put your face mask on?
Megan says, Nick, are you at home? That doesn't look like your brewery background.
I'm at the fucking brewery. What are you talking about? Well, this is my home these days. What are you talking about? Look.
When are you moving out, Nick?
Oh, they're looking a bit dusty. Do some cleaning.
I just washed them today.
It's going to be spotless, that place, eh?
Yeah. No, it's a lot of work running a brewery by yourself. Didn't realize how much work my prawns do.
Yes.
Trevor was impressed with your smile, Marc, and Rick says happy birthday again. Lots of love for Marc's birthday. Tell us your real age, Marc. That's what everyone really wants to know.
43. I was born in 1977. So there you have it.
One of the old guys.
if I took off this hat, you'd see how fluffy I really am.
So, talking about your hat, let's get on to that before it gets messy. Malt supplies, hop supplies, how is that affected? Well, obviously it's affected, but what's happening?
Well, look, obviously there's a few different perspectives that I don't think it's been like fully qualified, but it's been generally qualified within the the letter of the law. And there is permits that obviously suppliers can get to get certain products out to their clients. But of course, we've got to ask, I mean, the authorities will be asking the same questions, is exactly what are these people doing with said products, right? Mm. So obviously we know already that we can make non-alcoholic beer with it. We can make malted beverages with hops, malts, and yeast. All which has, I think, some favor in the future. Malted beverage is one of the most nutritional drinks that you can get. So, there are options there. But of course, at the moment, we fall into suit with everyone else in the country, and we are not able to supply until it obviously gets down to a 4 or 3. It's a little bit unclear exactly there. But obviously, no alcohol production will be happening, I don't think, between zone 3 and 4, really. I think there's a little bit of a gray area for me as I read it, and that's another discussion. But so far, so good in terms of, we have, a full warehouse full of malts ready to go. We have hops in place ready to go. So, I think we can kickstart brewing no problem again with my comrades in the same space. I know that they also have product on the ground. So, we are ready to go, but obviously still sitting waiting for for clear vision about.
Are we not allowed to brew at the moment? I thought it was just selling booze.
Wow.
It's difficult to say. I would say that I don't know the exact answer to that. There's many opinions, and we've seen them in the many WhatsApp groups that I'm sure we're all attached to. And so, there's many opinions about various aspects here, but I think generally, what I know is 100% guaranteed is that we can go and check on key equipment at our breweries, right? If you have a permit to travel, which we do. So, there are cooling systems that have to be monitored. There are boiler systems, electric systems. I mean, as you know, in a brewery, electricity is never simple. You always have a trip here and there. All these things need to be monitored all the time. We can't just be going there once a week and thinking it's okay. It's a live, active site, so it needs to be managed. So that I know is okay. Brewing beer, I don't exactly know if that's going to be accepted or not. As you haven't produced, or at least you haven't packaged, and so therefore you're not exercisable yet, and so therefore you technically have got a product in a tank. You should, in theory, be okay, but I don't think you should be taking any chances there, Nick.
No, I think maybe
Morella shut us down. So
I think maybe between,
especially since the police station is directly opposite.
So funny enough, the only interaction I've had with the cops was on Friday. They came and knocked on the window, 3 of them, and they walked in here.
Can we get some
around? They said, "What you doing?" And they said, "Please, can we buy some gin?" They just want our G&T.
Really?
They're trying to buy.
They were from Seapoint. They were from Woodstock.
They're in full uniform as well. And these guys have bought from me before, like legally, so they're obviously trying to get for their wives. I was like, "No, bro, no stock, sorry."
Yeah.
Is this entrapment?
Yeah, exactly. Temptation. But to answer your greater question there, Mike, the supply from our suppliers globally back into South Africa is still there. It's obviously the conundrum is the transport, what can and cannot be classed as essential and can and cannot come into the country. And so there's a bunch of different views there, and there's also a bunch of different activities happening in that space. So I think it's like everything else, it's a bit of a wait and hold.
And it's also a little bit of a challenge with the exchange rate, sorry to say, but obviously going forward, it's going to be a tricky time.
Well, it's not tricky. It's just going to be more expensive. Simple. And so therefore, the knock-on effect of that is that I think cost price will be higher, and ultimately retail price will be higher, right? Because there's nothing we can do about the fact that the rand is depreciated by 30% in the last month, right? And that's
so. This is what I wanted to actually ask, and we might as well discuss it now because we're talking about it. I listened to the talk yesterday on the state of on the food and drink tech with Epiwe and the distilling guys, and Lucy was on there, and I mean, like the consensus was that guys are gonna have to start charging less for the beer, and I'm thinking like shit, like all the raw ingredients. Already beer in this country is too cheap, and the raw ingredients are going up in price, and I can't I can't see how as a brewer. I mean, I've tried to brew small batches. It's impossible to charge the prices that you guys are already charging for it on a small scale. So,
well, I mean, there is one way, obviously, which is the way that we don't want to discuss. But I mean, you literally put the worst quality products that you can find into your beer, right? And that's how you cut your cost down to a terrible beer that is
malts from Caledon.
Yeah, there you go, Nick.
Yeah. So I mean, the
I'm not going to mention any names.
There are some other malts around, but I mean, one has to look for them, to find the quality. So anyway,
but I mean, then you're going to struggle to make a beer better than Castle if you're using SAB malt and SAB hops, and you're trying to make that they're designed to make lagers, and you're going to make a lager worse than Castle. Then what's the point? You're still not going to be able to compete with them on price.
I agree. And
can you imagine what's going to happen to AB InBev beer prices after lockdown?
I think they're going to drop them.
Yeah, absolutely. Of course, because they're going to have beer ready to go, right? That needs to be sold sooner
than
than
a huge stockpile. And at the end of the day, people are going to have less money in their pocket at the moment, and they're going to buy what's cheapest.
But not just AB InBev. We're going to have craft brewers that have beer in tanks that are ready to package.
Talk about something else.
Yes.
Ask some non-dire questions on the chat.
I'm going to go pour myself another beer.
We'll get them.
Cheers.
No, I'm going to get another beer too.
Charlie, can I get another beer?
Can we?
I've almost finished this Tropic of Collab, and it's held up really well.
Can we ask on the chat what everyone's drinking? What's their beer of the day? What are they
Yeah,
drinking
guys.
right
See,
now?
what pineapple beer? What version of pineapple beer are you guys drinking at home today?
Or
Let us
cider.
know.
Guys, what should I have? I've got 10 choices here.
Have you got beer
Which
still? Have
tank
you?
should I go for? And they're all ready.
Oh, beautiful.
Porter.
Tank
Coconut.
number 1. Oh, porter. Yeah, I brewed this 10 days ago. This porter batch. It's gonna be delicious.
No, you didn't.
Oh, sorry, I didn't brew it 10 days ago. What am I talking
No.
about?
You just
I
cropped
just want
the
to also
yeast
quickly. I just also want to quickly say a morning type blessing to Nick, Anna's, and I's very, very cool festival that is not going to happen this year. And anyway,
The Woodstock Winter Beer Festival.
Woodstock Backyard Beer Festival.
Such good fun, but such a shit glass, Nick.
It's beautiful.
I concur.
I'm going off to for myself a drink.
Right, so Marc, for your birthday, we're going to drink the vintage number number 6. Please tell us a bit of story about this beer. There is a story to it.
There is a story. Yeah, no. That's it comes a long way. We were gonna go. We were still making. I think it was like 2015. We put it into the barrel the first time, and it was a turn barrel. So we turned another barrel beer in it, and we turned it over, and we maybe lagged a little bit for. I turned it in like 2 days. I thought that would be okay. We did do a clean on it anyway, even on the turn, but it was a little bit too long, and we developed a couple of sort of weird medicinal flavors in it at start, and it was a bit weird to start off. It was a bit funky, and so we decided to dose it a bit more. We dosed it with a concoction of bacteria and wild yeast, and then we let it go, right? And 18 months, 16, 17 months later, it was about ready to roll. And yeah, so you're drinking about a 5-year-old beer there, I would say.
So brandy barrels, rye, sour.
Brandy barrel, rye, sour. It was supposed to be a big rye. That's what we wanted to essentially
7.4, yeah.
Yeah, we wanted to make it a big rye in essentially 1-year-old bourbons that had been then reconditioned, or not reconditioned, but repurposed for brandy, and then been on brandy for 3 years, and then come off that. And we wanted to get a very complex big rye beer out of that, but it didn't quite work. So we went for the rye sour instead. A couple of flaws on the beer. But I think generally in the game, like it's not a bad sour.
It's phenomenal, yeah. It's
flavor. I think flavor is there, but I think viscosity is a little bit wrong. 1 or 2.
Yeah, maybe.
That, but we're happy with the flavor.
But I mean that's rye as well. I mean rye is like
True.
thick and gluteny and like
And a bitch to brew with.
Yeah,
that also.
I brewed
yes.
I didn't. I'm not going to say that either. Moving on.
Yes.
So what's happening here? Megan's drinking the Woodstock Mr. Brownstone. Awesome. Yeah. Neil says, how old is that Tropical Collab? Not as old as you think, Neil. It's that label that I bought off the shelf for you with the old label. You know the story. I'll remind you otherwise. Phil says he's still working. Beer o'clock is 5 p.m. No, it's not. It's Friday.
It's Friday.
Cam's drinking.
Come on, Philly, man.
Cam's drinking homebrew Kolsch. Aaron's drinking Vibrant Forest Papa Juicy Pale Ale. Where did you get that from, Cam? Aaron, sorry. And then he's got a blockhouse after that. Cam's got a blockhouse after that. Jocelyn's drinking a blackberry and red grape saison from our very own research brewery. That sounds amazing.
Nice.
Can I come and get some? Tracy's drinking Jane Doe hard cider and agility potion and waiting for the
I've got a bottle of agility. It's coming on later.
Nice. Rick's drinking Misty Cliffs Hazy IPA from Lakeside. Megan says, so what beers are you most looking forward to brewing in the near future on the presumption that sales will rocket? Go on then, Bruce. Start. What beers have you got in the pipeline to brew?
Oh, gosh. No, you've caught me completely off guard. I'll come back to that. But we will obviously be trying to get our core range back up to speed before we start doing specialties. That's no lie. But we obviously do have 2 specialties that we're launching just post-lockdown, which is our Grenadilla Lolly IPA and then the Fierce Beer Collab, which is going to be a fun beer, yeah.
That Grenadilla Lolly was going to launch at Fools, wasn't it? Or just before Fools? Or,
yeah, both actually.
Yeah.
And then we've got some stuff in barrels, which I'll actually take some advice from the barrel folk, how long I should leave them in the barrel, because they were ready to come out pre-lockdown, and I'm I'm itching to get them out, but I don't know if I should or leave them or whatever. But
just rather leave them
back
and
to
then make it, rather blend it in to another batch. See if you can make another batch and blend it to flavor. If you over extract now, then you can always get that flavor back, right? But
that like a Solero.
no.
Yummy.
But it's a good idea. It's a good idea. I'm worried that the pH is going to get too low.
No. Well, I mean, if you have to bring them to stainless, rather take them out to the stainless. I'm just holding there until afterwards, right?
Yeah.
Cool.
Cool.
Activity.
Aaron says he still has vintage number one.
Nick's not off the hook. He must have some fun stuff coming out.
What?
Well, we had a lot of ideas and things in the pipework before lockdown. Everything seems to be, and that's just survival. Let's see if we can survive through
Let's make some lager.
Well, let's make some soup now. It seems.
What about an ocean aged?
But I do have
lager.
1,000 liters of a delicious Brett Doppel that's been in barrel for a year and a half now, and it's tasting amazing. So I'm excited to get that out. And as Marc said, we'll most likely brew a batch and blend it back just to get the sort of consistency we want in it. And then, it's about thinking about what bottles we're going to put in for the 750 ml, what we're going to call it. I'm going to get money to buy the bottles, etc.
Yeah.
Did you do an ocean age? Did you do an ocean one this year?
The ocean age stuff's still underwater. Yeah, I've got about, what do we got? 1,500 down there right now.
Yeah.
It's just challenging because I can't really put them on the books because they're in the ocean. Yeah,
and you can't move them.
Well, our waters are quite quiet.
What I should really do is try and insure them, and then they would magically go missing.
Yeah, just tell me where they are, and they go missing. Just put it out now. Just tell us everyone now.
Mike, you're not going to dive down there, bro. I mean, it's not going to happen, right?
I'll just sink down there.
Too scary down there.
There's no sharks, is there?
It's pretty bloody dark. Last time I went, I swam straight to the floor.
Really?
Yeah, multiple times. It's horrible.
Josh is drinking Jack Black Lager. Sarah, I know Sarah. She's drinking Jane Doe. Somebody drank the number 6 last night as well. Daniel drank this last night.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Where can we get our hands on one of those after lockdown's done, Marc?
Message me privately on my private stash.
Do they have any at Ruland?
No, they're sold out, I think. I think everyone's sold out. Yeah.
So Marc, are you brewing? Are you still?
We've got a couple of shout out to the guys. How's it, guys? We had like 13 or 14 beers that we wanted to do this year. Last year we were a bit light on beers. We didn't do a lot of beers because we're dealing with so much chaos. Last year was a tough year anyway, let alone what is going to happen after this. But we decided that at least we would create this year. Even if things weren't going that great economically, we would create. And it's all blown out the window. So sorry for that, especially with some of the guys that we were going to do collabs with and things like that. But so we're only really going to focus on 2 things now. I think we're going to focus on. We'll see where we can fit other things in, depending on how long this thing lasts. But we're definitely going to rebrand Session. So our Kolsch, this one here, our Kolsch is essentially going to be rebranded to a lager. So we're going to change the recipe. We're going to make it a little bit more contemporary lager. And that was more just to keep our prices right for our clients, right? Because we were going to reduce the 4.4 to 4, keep the excise tax and keep cost price the same. And essentially, put it out at the same price, make sure the consumers are happy. So that was the idea with that. But also, we like to, how long do you want a beer to last for? Nothing lasts forever, right? Everything is temporary.
This will probably last quite a long time, eh?
Well, last a fair time. But anyway, we'll get rid of that. We get rid of that one. We rebrand. We'll give more information on that later in terms of what the name is going to be. But and then obviously we're going to focus on. I don't want to do it, but I got vetoed by my guys. They all want to do it. They want to make. They believe that Riot should be making the best New England IPA in South Africa, and so.
Oh yeah.
And so therefore we'll be launching if 6 was 9. And
Marc's hated a NEPA like ever since day one. We've had many arguments.
I'm not a big fan of the style, but I like my bitter with my hops, but apparently some people like their sweet, so we'll go for that. And we've got a couple of great. I mean, obviously with Lazarus, who's moved on to Paternoster Brewing Company, but we obviously got a couple of great recipes together when we brew together, and so we'll knock something up and hopefully make a good one.
Sounds awesome.
Nice.
Megan, on that subject of hops, Megan asks, are there any new hops that might be hitting our shores anytime soon?
Well, get Larry on there. Larry's online. So, Mr. Larry, tell us what new varieties we might be expecting out of Bathhouse sometime soon.
You might have already answered. I need to catch up.
in the stores at the moment, like in the cold stores at the moment, there are a few varieties that I don't think that everyone has explored with. I think there definitely has been a little bit of interest in hops like Eldorado, Equinox.
I love those two hops. I mean, I've used them in most of my beers. They're phenomenal. Yeah.
And Mike, and tribute to you, you do use alternative hops and you get good results. And that's what I think. Potentially for the future, we should start llooking away and shying away from those.
Also use Citra. Also use Citra and Mosaic and Simple.
Everyone using
they're phenomenal hops.
But there's plenty of action.
3 S's. Right? Southern Passion, Southern Dawn.
I've used a bit of African Queen.
We're all going to have to pump a little bit of that in, I'm afraid.
Yeah, but Africa Queen and Southern Passion have been adopted. They've been adopted globally as good, solid hops for late edition in New England, right? So they are hop matter that give you good flavor.
Don't forget the promise.
I've struggled massively dry hopping with
not the promise.
I love the promise.
Struggled massively dry hopping with South African hops, like that astringency you get from, or the astringency I found from it. But Nick from Soul Barrel seems to have great results, and I think Rory's had some really good results dry hopping. So it's not doesn't rule it out. Just
I think you definitely need to blend it a bit.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Can't just dry hop with.
Let me just catch up on the chat here. So Fran says hello, Nichols. Simpsons Malt says happy birthday, Marc, from the home of good malt. Hester says, hello, guys. Cheersing with a happy pills from Woodstock. Happy Friday. Tracy wants a Nipa. I think that was just before you mentioned that you're doing one, Marc. So that's good. Steve Peel's joined us. Hey, Steve. Welcome back to the Cape.
Cheers, Steve.
Sorry he's late. Steve drove down from Durban yesterday, I think. Craig says Clive and Craig. He had a permit, I think. That's why I hesitated when I said I think there. But sorry, Steve, I dropped you in the ship.
How did you get through?
How was your drive, Steve?
Easier than the Drake Passage, man.
Clive and Craig are drinking a Rice Krispies and Polenta Ale and distilling some gin. That sounds amazing. David, we just talked about David before we went live. Hey, Bruce.
Hey, Dave.
Dave's online. He says he's just finished brewing his lockdown bitter. His mate in Manchester sent him a photo of him drinking out of a Fools and Fans glass that he gave to him. That's awesome. Well done, Dave.
Man, I was making bitter.
International Fools and Fans love. Featherstones are drinking a Cottbusser. Phil says he misses Laz. I miss Laz too. Marc really dropped the boat there, letting Laz go. That's Laz was awesome. Josh says we need a few more Nipas. I agree. What a Marc.
Yeah.
What else? Phil says that it's more process rather than new hops, incognito and enhanced pellets. Okay, so you're looking at like cryo hop alternatives. Is that right, Marc?
Yeah. Well, yeah, of course. But I mean, they've been in the market for a little while now, right? So obviously we've got the pure hop pellet, the BBC pellet, which is essentially, a refined pellet with less vegetative matter. It gives you a little bit more pure sort of actual hop, volatile sort of type flavors. It's quite nice. It's cleaner, I think, is the general terminology that I would say was used by the brewers that replied to me and given me feedback on that. But there's other products. We've got Flex coming in now. These are all liquid CO2 extracted products. We've got Flex, we've got Incognito. We've got a couple of other products in R&D at the moment in development. That's a bit hush hush, but also looking to open up a new spaces in the hop space for especially around efficiency and flavor, right? So so there's a bunch of new products, but you can get hold of me privately outside of this chat if you want to know more, and we'll give you all the data. But I mean, we'll see what the Germans have to offer in terms of the innovation.
That's good.
I think that's important
good.
though with that style, hey? With the NEPA style, you need efficiency out of them because you just lose so much beer and use so many hops to.
I think that was the push, but there was obviously with New England's being so popular in the States and so much hops being used in terms of matter. I think that was the push initially, and obviously it's it also, when you create products like this that have great efficiency levels and also are easy to transport, if the efficiencies are occur across the board, right? Yeah. So I think that's something that to aim for, but ultimately, if you want to make a classic double IPA, I still believe you're going to have to go back to hop palate because there's a certain flavor that you get from it that you get, that you would need to have in a classic double IPA. But
I think
2009 Stone double IPA is that's going to be a certain.
Even
flavor,
the guys I talk to that specialize in hazy IPAs, they still use T90s to get if you don't use any T90, then you don't get that flavor. Even in a style that you're not looking for bitterness from, you still need that. There's some flavor compound in that vegetal matter that you
get a thinned out flavor, don't you? You get the
Bruce, what are you drinking in an unlabeled can there?
It's called my Silver Bullet.
And what was that dog doing in between your legs just now?
He loves the crotch.
Just like Nick.
Let me get that higher. It's an Acre Stout, guys. Cheers.
Yeah,
cheers,
David, are you drinking your Acre Stout today? Let us know.
David
Pierre says that yes, the whole fam is here. Good. Hester says she's been craving hops so much she will snort them. I think Marc can sell you other stuff for that.
Michael, how dare you?
Marc, you'll get messages from me.
Retract that statement, Michael.
Marius, a lot of messages in the next 10 minutes.
That's untrue.
Marius says, lekker group of brewers together. Trevor says he doesn't know there's too many Cape Townians. Yeah, I have tried on the other two Friday beers to get somebody spread out from every different province, but this week kind of fell together with a whole load of Cape Townians. But sometimes it's just good to be local. Eh?
Keep it local. Local's lekker.
Next week we'll spread the love around a bit more.
The connections work, yeah, so it helps.
This is also true, yeah. The old first world internet, interweb. What well-trained kids there, Bruce.
Thank you.
Yeah, my kids are locked away. They can't.
No. Oh yeah, Xavier. Yeah.
Yeah.
They were supposed to make sure that it was topped up all the time, so I did have to go and remind them.
Yahya says not so much for the dog though.
Yeah.
Steven's just
look
finished.
at that big Cuban you've got there.
Yes, that's a bit. God. Where did that come from? It's just like all of a sudden there is,
right?
Yeah, but that's not fair.
Steven's just finished brewing a milkshake IPA based off slow churn. First time giving it a go. Somebody, Rich, has joined us from Berwick upon Tweed, up in the north of England.
Oh, lovely.
That's awesome.
Welcome.
Cheers, Rich. And then France is getting thirsty, but it's only 10:30 a.m. in Toronto. I don't understand the problem with that. 10:30 is good.
France, pour yourself a drink.
Yeah.
Is France on? France, please.
Yeah.
Pour the bloody beer, man. Don't be stupid, man. Come on.
Phil says, stand by your bed.
If you were still in Cape Town, you'd be slapped if you said that, right? Come on, man. Yes. Bloody Canadians.
So while we're talking about
he's
time.
still a Dutchman.
While we're talking about time, obviously next week some guys will be back to work. So if you guys can comment, like not in the chat, but in the comment section on the video below, if 4 p.m. for next week is still going to be good, or suggest an alternative time otherwise to do this next week. Because obviously 4 p.m. on a Friday is great when we're all stuck at home, locked down anyway, but I don't know if it's all right.
I think most people are drinking at 4 p.m. on a Friday, either way.
I don't think Cape Town works at 4 p.m. on a Friday, but I'm not sure how the rest of the country Like, I think they still work up in Joburg on a Friday up until 5.
We prefer
They're
a
sitting
slot
in
in
traffic
Cape
at
Town.
that
2 to
time.
6.
Too much traffic.
You
Yeah.
need 2 to 6 p.m. in Cape Town is the slot, right? You can't really
Yeah.
say what's going to happen in that period of time.
Bruce Hester says you're showing off with your Cuban there, and David says he's got this Acre Stout lined up ready for action. So David's brewed that Acre Stout video that we did, what, Bruce, 2 years ago?
Yeah, it was early 2018 or late 2017.
Yeah, so we brewed the Acre Stout on the Grainfather. That recipe is on this channel if anyone wants to. All the new home brewers that have taken up brewing recently, go brew that. If you can get ingredients, go brew that one. Pineapples won't quite cut it in that recipe, Bruce. So
No.
not quite going to give you the
We use
flavor.
some vanilla pods.
Yeah, you can get vanilla still, sort of. It's expensive.
Yeah, it's
Fresh scallion there.
Could use extract, not essence, but you could get away with extract, yeah.
Yeah, we have converted to extract. The price literally is tenfold what it was when we started out. So
Yeah.
we use extract as well, which is basically what we create anyway when we scrape the pods and put them in alcohol. It's basically extract, right?
So talking about brewing with you, we had fun once upon a time. We got drunk one night at a wine festival, and they were selling these amazing German gingerbread cookies. This company called Hark and Heart, and we tried to find a way to incorporate cookies into a beer, and the process was a bit of a fail. I mean, we spent pretty much 24 hours almost in the brewery trying to get
Single
it through.
brew.
But at one point that beer was tasting great. It's changed a bit over its life, and now it's what, 18 months old, and I'm going to try and open this and see if it. If we get cut off, it's
go towards a sink.
Yeah, fuck that. It'll be all right.
I
have faith, Bruce. See, look, a little bit of smoke.
Yeah, I mean that was predominant rye.
Yep.
Wheat and
gingerbread
oats.
Cookies.
And then obviously gingerbread cookies, which I think 50% of them ended in the heat exchanger.
Yeah, it was a challenging day. Hey, it started from the start where your boiler didn't work. You had to fix your boiler before we even.
No, I've never had such a tricky brew before. Doesn't seem to have much head there.
There's no head at all, but it's actually not bad. With that little bit of rye left over in the glass from the from that,
blend.
it's got a really nice like rye aroma now with some ginger. It's like a fucking ginger beer. It's good.
Well, that was what we were going for, right? Low ABV, Christmas beer.
It is low. I mean, it's 3.5% ABV as well. Hey, so I mean, it's not thin for a 3% beer.
Nice view, Nick.
Yeah, the tablecloth's just coming over now.
Oh, we missed that view. Bruce looks like a gangster.
I'm getting sun now.
Hey, Bruce, you look a bit like a gangster.
Cheers.
Actually,
Drag Lord.
With your quite thick beard, Bruce, you do look quite.
I've done some thinning.
It's impressive.
Adrian,
it's a thick coat there.
Adrian has a Panama hat to go with your cigar, Bruce.
My son lost mine at Africa Burn a couple of years ago. Miss it.
No way.
Miss it. Yeah. Yeah.
So Pierre here asks,
what happens to the burn? Don't blame him
Panama
now.
hat can also stay there. It was gifted. It's this weekend, guys. Jeez, we're putting up the tent in the backyard.
It's the burn. Here we go.
I know. It's unbelievable, right?
That's why we're making soup for the nation.
Are you guys going to camp? You're going to camp on the thing there, Bruce?
On the playa.
Yeah, camp on the set. The fake playa there outside your place. Binnekring, bro.
Pierre says, if this goes on for 3 more months, what bootlegger fast car are you going to use for delivery? Asking for a friend.
That's a good question, right? Okay, here's the question, I guess. What do you do if nothing happens for the next 3 months? What do we do?
Well, how many breweries are going to survive up until level 3? No. But how many breweries are going to survive now up until level 3 when we're going to be able to sell alcohol again?
Well, it depends how long that takes, right? Yeah, I think it's a time thing. It's not a level thing.
And also, how quick can you pivot from kegs in bars and restaurants to bottles and cans in the very limited range of liquor store outlets that we'll be able to get access to.
Yeah.
And how many people are going to buy door to door.
So this model's changed completely. I mean, like you're no longer, there's no like brew pubs and
Can you change the subject, please?
It's about right, huh?
No, I mean,
blame Pierre here.
Yeah. No, I mean, yeah.
So John says in London they definitely start drinking at 4 p.m. on a Friday. I'm sure before then. I grew up in the UK, John. 4 p.m.'s late on a Friday, but yeah, 4 p.m.'s good. That's fine. Workers' Day should be drinking the whole day. That's Friday. Monday, isn't it? Friday. Next Friday.
I'm going to be hiking on the mountain. I'm running straight to the top of the Table Mountain.
No one's working. Do we still get to have Workers' Day?
Hey man,
Matt,
working hard.
Matt says it's torture watching you guys drinking beers when it's been a couple of weeks since he had the slightest sniff of a beer. Yes. Matt, brew some pineapple beer. There's plenty of recipes out there.
Cheers.
It's just as good. Not. Phil says, Pierre, no, that was part of the chat there. Try ringing a company in South Africa on a Friday afternoon. No chance. Greetings from Lusaka. Happy birthday, Marc, from Velton.
Thank you, Velton.
Yeah, Friday's not a good day to do business in South Africa, hey? Nick, you're killing Hester drinking.
Depends what the business is.
True. Drinking fresh beer. What have you guys been fermenting other than beer? Have you guys been homebrewing much?
No,
I made some bourbon.
Did you?
It was literally the worst tasting liquid I've ever put in my mouth ever.
What did you do with the corn? How did you?
I did drink it straight away. It was 92%, and I thought it would maybe taste nice. But I almost threw up.
You're supposed to put water in that.
Years, maybe it'll be okay.
You're supposed to bring it back to 43, bro.
or like 50.
So I did my first ever distilling run. So I did a 50-liter batch, 70% Pilsner malt and 30% smoked malt. So I thought I'd make a nice smoky bourbon. And then I let it ferment. I've added a bunch of sugar and let it ferment out. So it was about 12% alcohol. It smelled pretty rough. And then I put it in the still and stilled it out. Nice. And I got this liquid out that was 92%. Obviously, I topped and tailed it. So I took the first bit, threw it down the drain. And then I got about 2 liters out. And
did you put some oak in there then? Did you put some oak in the?
Yeah, but it's a 12%. You should
more respect for the.
Sorry, I was going to say, at 12%, you should have just let it run through one time, right? Make it even more condensed, like to 25, and then you should
just do it once.
I did it. No, but you should do it another time after that.
I just put it through once.
Oh, okay.
France says that there's a brewery up the road from him called Leftfield that recently brewed an all South African hop IPA, dry hopped with African Queen. Wonder where they got the hops from. They do export, eh?
They would have got it from.
They got it from Greg Crumb.
They would have got it from Greg Crumb. ZA hops.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was he part of Devil's Peak?
Yeah.
He started Devil's Peak, yes.
Back in the day.
Back in the day, yes.
Yeah.
Hester says, sadly, the co-op won't make it. That's terrible. That's really sad. Co-ops like a lot of breweries have.
Hester, expand a bit on there. What do you mean?
Yeah. Rowley says, happy birthday, happy beef day, Marc. Cam says, what about consolidation of breweries, not brands, but shared equipment, consolidated purchase and negotiating power? I can see a lot more of that, eh? That's gonna have to happen, yeah.
I think it's kind of been happening already anyway. I think there's been a lot of sharing of breweries and crossing over and this and that in the last 2 years, because I mean, this is not the first of us having a hard time in beer, right? The economy hasn't been great for 2 years, right? I mean, none of us have been anywhere near capacity, all right, for the last 2 years. So this is, maybe we slightly more aligned to actually being able to deal with this. I mean, imagine if you were, should I dare say it, guys? Imagine if you were a spoilt British or American brewer right now who just has beer flowing out of their brewery without even being able to make beer. Yeah. Just for free, right? Just flowing out, right? Because it can, you'd be pretty harsh hit now if your government came in and said, look, no more liquor, right? So I guess we kind of hardened, right? Even though it's not easy and it's a horrible experience, we hardened to this stuff. We're African, we're hardened.
And also, like, craft beer is quite unique, eh? Like, in the sense that like a lot of competitors share ideas and collaborate together, and a lot of you guys work together anyway. So,
and I think more so now we're going to have to, right?
Agreed. But I think also we need to make the circle bigger. I think we've been saying it for a long time, and the reality is, if we're going to make this industry survive in this country, we're going to have to go beyond the people who are watching on YouTube today and beyond the circle that we're currently servicing. And
definitely,
how are we going to do that? And I think that's going to be our biggest challenge. And I'll say it right now that I don't know many restaurants and bars that are able to not live on 60 days, 90 days, sometimes, sorry, Mark, payments to our suppliers, even when we were trading normally. So the reality is I think, correct me if I'm wrong, South Africa, but 90% of restaurants and bars are going to need a cash injection, a reinvestment, in order to be remotely where they were before lockdown. So
Cyril did just print 200 billion rand, so hopefully that gets injected in the right areas.
Might see a billion of that. The other lot will go missing somewhere.
It's going to end up loans, right? So if you couldn't finance your debt before, you're just going to extend loans. So again, talking reinvestment, cash injection, issuing more shares, whatever the case may be.
Thankfully, it's at prime -5 though, so it's at a very, very good rate. It'll be like 4%.
No, I mean there's positives, right? Of course, but
it's a great big positive.
I'll say it. I've only had 1 3/4 beers. Stellies Brewing Company is open for investments. If anyone knows anyone who would like to get involved.
After all that doom and gloom, but invest in my brewery. It's a great investment.
Yeah, it's a passion. Bruce, you've got the passion, bro. You've got the passion, bro.
It's a dangerous chair arm. It looks more like a mash paddle.
It will be soon.
Look, I mean, obviously, like, survivors at the front of the queue right now, right? We've got to keep going, keep
respond, revive,
and hope for the best, right?
I think personally, from an educational point of view, like, I see these posts. I saw this post yesterday by a fantastic bottle store in this country. I won't name their names, but guys that have supported craft, and they put a post on about what beer are you going to drink after lockdown, and the picture was a Heineken beer. Like on the headline of the beer, and we don't need to be doing that. We need genuinely supporting non-ABI, non-Heineken brands, and supporting the guys that have really been hit hard, because ABI will be fine with this. They'll be sitting there.
Against ABI, nothing against Heineken, but let's support local guys. That's the key.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah. Well, we can say nothing against them, but I might not mean it. But why? Why are we going to support some huge organization with shareholders in the States and in Europe? And why not just go and support your local brewery that employs local people, that makes great beer? And I'll say that from a consumer point of view, because it's more difficult for you guys to say that, being the people we're going to support.
I think
we also support local suppliers and.
Yeah, but Mike, obviously everyone's had a lot of time to think during the lockdown, right? It's been a time of obviously a totally different rhythm that comes with everything, right? So, but I mean, ultimately, I think that consumers are going to want to know where that 1 rand or 10 rand or 100 rand or 1,000 rand is exactly going. And I think because 1,000 rand is going to be certainly harder to come by in 6 months than it is now, and certainly 6 months ago, right? So therefore, they're going to want to know exactly where that's going. And when you're buying local, it's a lot easier to see it, right? There you go. You hand your cash over to get your 6-pack. All right. We obviously running the tills. We're paying staff. We're producing product. We're buying raw materials, et cetera, right? It's a lot easier to see exactly where it's going. In a large corporate, it's very difficult to see where your money's going, right? Because 2 cents goes to year, 5 cents goes to year, 10 Rand goes to the shareholders, as always.
But it all goes to dividends that are getting paid out at every quarter in earnings.
And not always dividends that can be afford to be paid out, but are forced to be paid out, right? So
at the end of the day,
actually it's actually quite easy to see where it goes, but it doesn't go to causes that if you were to give away some of your money to someone, not a cause that you would want to give your money away to. Give your money away to Bruce.
At the end of the day, you want to try and drink a quality product.
Yeah, and there's big breweries that make quality product too, though.
Yeah, no, for sure. Because often you get caught up in this argument about, or I get caught up in this argument about Castle, and you can't deny that Castle's not a good lager. It's for the style. If you're going to get into BJCP terms, it scores very highly every time as an American lager, and Castle Light scores very highly as an American light lager. But AB InBev, another company that you want to give your hard-earned money to, or not that I want to give my hard-earned money to anyway. Do some research on AB InBev. They're not the nicest of people.
Well, there was that since there's been so many conspiracy theories going on in the last 3 weeks, but there was that story, and I think there was a few other people on this channel that will know about it, but the fact that ABI want to control all the liquid, right? So obviously, if it's not only beer, then you also want to control water. Obviously, this is only a story, so I'm just repeating it. But it was interesting thinking that so basically they did some sort of analysis around it, and it was Tim Webb that actually told me the story when he was here visiting us. But basically, if Coca-Cola and ABI joined forces, they would control 20% of the world's water supply, which I thought was a very interesting fact.
Did they not join forces? I mean, like ABI had a stake in.
Yeah, they used to.
They unwound that.
SAB used to have a stake in amalgamated beverages, but
that's right. Yeah.
Not anymore. That was soda. Yeah.
Yeah. That's gone. Right. It is coffee time, Nick. Tell us about the coffee. What happened with Origin and your beer? It's a little bit old, but
our friends at Origin Coffee. Everyone listening out there, please support your local coffee roasters as well. They're also struggling just as much as us brewers. I've been on the phone every couple of days with Joel.
Nick,
frozen.
You're frozen.
You're frozen, Nicky.
The police are in buying gin.
In Origin Coffee, they also.
Nick,
still got me there?
Yeah. Just start from your friends at Origin.
Yeah, friends at Origin. So Joel is obviously the owner there. They're also going through some hard times, as is a lot of industries lately. So if you can support coffee, support your local roasteries, and you can still order Origin Coffee online.
Yeah, they can still sell, eh? They can still sell with online sales and
for sure.
I mean, we all go and buy our coffees.
Anyway, it's a pretty awesome beer we did with them. So it is a coffee cream ale. What we did is we took 4 different blends of coffee with them, roasted at different temperatures, and then we made a 150-liter cold brew batch, which we used one of our yeast propagation tanks for, and then we agitated that for 24 hours, and then passed that into a batch of cream ale. And it's delicious. It's also got a serious caffeine kick. I drank about 8 of them on the launch, and I got like a serious buzz.
Didn't sleep, but you were drunk at the same time.
Exactly.
It's like that vodka. It's like a vodka Red Bull, hey? Where you have that juxtaposedness of alcohol and caffeine at the same time.
My heart wasn't going as hard as if I drank 20 vodka Red Bulls, but it was great. A bit more healthy.
Nick, Steve asks, how do you split the heads and tails, and what's the gauge?
Listen, I'm not going to give you any advice on. I'm not going to give you any advice on distilling because my distilling liquid tastes terrible. But basically,
I think it's taste.
Oh God, it's very
complicated. Don't do it,
I was
Nick.
Distilling's easy. This must be very easy. It's not easy. It's very complicated, and I don't know what I'm doing, so I'm not answering.
Trevor says he loves your Stormy Porter, Nick. That won an award last year.
Thank you.
Unfortunately, the Africa Beer Cup's not taking place this year, but but so that means you get the title holder position
Get
for
to be
another
the
year.
reigning champions. Great.
Fantastic.
A few other brands too, Mike. Thank you.
Yeah.
Is that a Valve?
Yeah. Everyone.
What did you won best IPA, eh?
In Africa, apparently.
I judged that beer, Marc, as well.
Oh, well, then I know it was in good hands, Mike. Thank you.
I actually asked afterwards. It was one of the only ones. I don't know if I'm allowed to say this, but I asked afterwards, like, what was that IPA? Because it was so good. And I only found out like after you won because.
And then you were like, "Fuck, damn."
It's like, actually, it was shit. I need to change my score.
It was Marc, damn.
Quickly,
I thought
mark it down.
I thought it was Drifter's IPA, but.
Damn it. Anyway, we'll take what we can get, huh?
Greg Boucher says, "Happy birthday, Marc." Rowley says, "Is he the only one that thinks Bruce is looking like the beer godfather or a hoppy Scarface?"
Well, apparently he just got assassinated because he's gone.
He's gone. He asked to be relieved. I think he went for a pee.
He can just stand up and turn around.
David whirlpooled his Anything Goes lager. Didn't you brew a Goza that was called Anything Goes?
Of course. No, we brewed a Goza. Yeah.
Yeah, but David's done an Anything Goza. No, Anything Goes lager with African Queen. I gave David some South African hops last year because they're not so easy to get hold of in the UK, and it's always cool when guys overseas play around with South African hops, and I think we're quite bored of them now as brewers.
It's actually quite interesting because a lot of brewers use them in the States. Like I think Greg built a whole business out of it, and we don't even know anything about it. So there's definitely pallets leaving every harvest.
No,
maybe Marc, you know a little bit more about the quantities, but it's probably at least a container a year, so it's a good amount of hops.
I would say that there's at least anywhere between 20 and 50 tons of South African hops flowing to North America now. Yeah, wow. That would be my estimation.
I smuggled some into the UK at Christmas, and with one of the brewers from Verdant, we brewed a hoppy, like New England style pale ale with Queen, Star, and Passion. It's quite good fun. Yeah,
good brewers though. Huh?
Yeah,
make nice beers, huh?
Trevor's just opened a Potter's Pale Ale. Where did you get that one from, Trevor? Can't wait for
the good doctor.
Can't wait for the good hop to be up and running again. Happy birthday, Marc. Buwala from Zambia.
Walia.
Yeah, I'm terrible at pronouncing anything that's not English names.
Yes.
If my Afrikaans pronunciations out in a minute, it'll also be shocking. Send me a homebrew recipe of it. Of what, David? Sorry, I missed the point of that question. Oh, the DIY Brewdog catalog has great beers. Yeah, but Brewdog aren't very popular anymore, are they?
No, but I still think their catalog is pretty good.
Yeah. Apparently their hand sanitizer is amazing. I haven't tasted it yet, but apparently it's pretty good.
So this alcohol ban and people drinking hand sanitizers and people drinking methylated spirits and all that sort of stuff.
I don't mean to laugh, but
it's not funny. It's like it's deadly serious, like literally deadly serious. But this. So to talk about the alcohol ban again, but you know, like when you ban something that people are used to drinking and you ban something that people are used to smoking every day, it creates a bit of an illicit sort of trade out there, eh? And I don't know how well thought out that was, but I don't know how many people are going to be quite sick of. I mean, I saw a video at the weekend which Apiwe shared, which was shocking. Not the weekend, in the week, of guys mixing methylated spirits with that red Sparletta drink to create something. No. And I mean, you know, like you're creating a load of desperate people that can't buy something that is relatively safe to drink because they have an addiction to drinking. I don't know where I'm going with this.
It's tricky. It's a very, very tricky subject, and I mean, we all have different views on what the government's done, but at the end of the day, they're trying to keep their citizens safe. And South Africa has a huge.
There's various ways of doing it.
Domestic violence and crime associated with alcohol. So it's a very challenging situation.
I understand, but I mean, the ban on alcohol was due to COVID-19, not due to domestic violence, and not due to other issues that are a rife problem in this country and should be sorted out in a separate forum.
I applaud you for saying that, Mike, because I believe that the domestic violence problem was there before the COVID problem, right?
For sure.
It was just and it's just waiting to come out in an even worse way than it usually comes out, right? So that should be dealt with no matter what, right? That's got nothing to do with COVID and alcohol, although it unfortunately exacerbated it, right? But yeah, I mean, there isn't any quick solutions here, right? There's only hard problems here, and it's difficult to go either way there. You've kind of got to balance it out, right? I think they probably got it right, to be honest. They probably got it right. Just
to change the subject quickly.
Where are you, Bruce?
Sorry for the interruption, but my home delivery just arrived.
Yeah,
we have a ton of leeks, onions, carrots, some mushrooms that were dated.
Hunter's gold.
It's that's not hunters. That's carrots.
That's a lot of food. That's awesome.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. Sorry, that wasn't planned. The guy just popped in now. So yeah, that's awesome. We're very excited about this.
I'll wait to see the soup.
Yeah, we'll post some pics of us learning how to get the gravity of soup right.
Yeah.
The turbidity.
1.1.
I've been told you don't want it too thick because then it doesn't go as far, but you still need it thick, but then you don't want it too thick. And so yeah,
it's like a lot of other things in life, Bruce. I was chatting to your wife earlier.
Sounds like an applicable analogy.
Nick, this one's for you. David asks, do any of you craft brewers export your beer?
I wish.
So, yeah, we do 9 countries at the moment. Obviously, it's challenging in most of them right now. However, China is fully up and running again, and we have 3 containers on back order right now. I have enough beer in tank to fulfill the first order, maybe another half, but it's a challenge because we can't get labels or bottles or anything right now.
We can help fill up the rest.
That's one of the saving graces with us is that we do quite a lot of export, and with our exchange rate right now, it's good for us. When I first started working in China,
US,
we fixed our pricing at 12 Rand to the dollar, and now we're doing 18.5, so we're earning a lot more per container. So let's see if it's enough to help us out.
Because it does look like exports will be opened up again sooner than other markets, right?
Well, if they open it up for wine, surely then it's also for beer, right?
They opened it up for wine imports that were
Yeah.
imports, as I understand, and then it was only the stuff that was still stuck in the ports. And then
Look, it's really tricky with the differentiation between wine and beer exports. The wine industry has their own lobbying powers, and they spend a lot of money on that. And as far as I know, they lobbied very hard the first few weeks of lockdown, got it lifted, and then the new 2 weeks started, and they got stopped again. And apparently, they're losing about 150 million a week right now in loss of contracts and stuff. So the wine industry has been very negatively affected. I think beer is very limited. That's why we were probably one of the only brewers that export in very, very small amounts. So it's a container here and there. But
so in my opening to this episode, I mentioned that the wine industry had good lobbying powers, and also that obviously the cigarette industry has, because they were specifically mentioned in the president's speech last night as being allowed to be sold. We obviously have the Craft Brewers Association of South Africa, and we have the Brewers Association of South Africa, BASA, lobbying on our behalf. But like as a general public, like what can guys do to try and influence that decision? Is like I spoke last week to Julian, and Wendy mentioned that we should be writing to our councillors and explaining the situation. You know, is there more that we can be doing as a general public in order to support you guys with that? Yeah, Bruce, go.
I mean, my question would be, if restaurants and pubs are going to be the last, the last resort, basically, they're waiting for what, level 2, level 1 to be even opened. Us as a brewery, personally, that's where we make our volume, is in kegs to restaurants and bars and to our tap room. So for us to lobby hard to get a few tops to stock us and Rillant and the craft niche liquor stores is fantastic. We'll take it as soon as we can get it. But the reality is there's like everybody says, it's not only the beer industry that's been affected. We always feel like we were target because of alcohol, but just look downstream, all the other industries that have been affected, and I mean, we know why they've done it. So I honestly believe we just have to live with it. If they're not listening to the lobbyists, they're not listening to industry, they're not listening to the doctors in terms of what to do about alcohol, or they are listening and that means stay closed. What are we as a craft brewing industry, 1% of the market, and our consumers going to do to change that? My view is let's put our energies into where we can make positive contributions rather than fighting against the wind in areas that have pretty much been decided.
I guess my argument to that would be that are we doing enough, like from a lobbying point of view, and maybe not maybe that's from a Craft Brewers Association of South Africa or from a BASA point of view, because if the tobacco industry can get mentioned in the president's speech as an industry that will be opened up again, what's the difference between tobacco and the argument against cigarette sales, as I understand it, was that people share cigarettes between each other and that could pass on the transmission of COVID-19. Possibly that implication was the same for beer. If you're sharing beer with each other, maybe that was one of the reasons to ban it from passing on COVID-19. But if British American Tobacco and those lobbyists involved in the tobacco industry can get it to be mentioned in the president's speech, should that not have been? Is that not expected that alcohol would have been mentioned at the same time as tobacco? Because I always thought that as soon as cigarettes were allowed to be sold again, alcohol should be allowed to be sold again. Am I naive?
No, I don't see it in the same light. I think the inebriating character that comes with alcohol, that people are allowed to, they forget their worries, they have a good time, they might get a little bit more touchy, feely, friendly, and also the whole access question. We've got an interesting society here, guys, and I think it's something we deal with. We'll have people that are spending their few rands that they might have available on a couple of cheap beers, rather than feed their family. And I think the social issue is what the government have looked at here. They're not trying to target us as a craft brewing industry, but unfortunately they can't single us out as being exception to the rule either. So I don't know, maybe I'm just it's changing the industry, it's changing the world. I was looking at numbers last night, and maybe it's my economics background. I did have economics as a subject, yes, like a few years ago. Now I'm trying to be more of a scientist. But what I would like to ask the question is, if you had to ask how many people in the world are dying of hunger every day, and how many people in the world before COVID-19, and how many people die every day of malaria, and what world reaction do we have against that?
Well, in South Africa, I looked up the statistics. In South Africa, they don't have an exact number, but between 10 and 20 children every day, children, not people, die every day of starvation or hunger related issues.
The numbers I saw was 25 times more people die every day from hunger today in this world we're living in, and malaria.
But therein lies the crux of the problem, Bruce, right? Therein lies the real problem. The problem being that people only care about anything when it's happening to themselves.
Exactly.
So
COVID-19 doesn't
inherently disgustingly selfish, and there's nothing you can get it. That's how it is, right? Because we are.
Yeah.
And also the whole politics. If the current ruling party was seen to be taking it lightly, then you'd have everybody on the president's case, and he's handled it more professionally than any other nation, in my opinion, in the world, given all the UV rays. Well,
Except Sweden.
they've taken a completely different approach with a completely different
We'll
social.
see
now they're getting-
who's right and
now
wrong.
Guys, I mean, seriously, let's just
Let's
take
have a beer.
let's just take some disinfectant and inject it into our lungs. Thank you, Donald.
Yeah, Donald's
What
not
a
done
job.
so well out of this, has he?
What a
David says it's a shame about pubs being closed in the UK, but they can still buy beer in the supermarkets. So I don't feel too bad for them.
Mhm.
And Phil
Feel bad
says,
for you at all.
Hey, you're
But,
local. You got to have your local.
but obviously the pubs are going to really suffer from that because supermarkets were already destroying the UK pub scene before
Yeah.
that,
And
and now
they-
yeah.
And there, I mean, I know there's a lot of ABR haters, but as far as I understand, in the UK or in Europe, yeah, I know, Mike. ABR are also allowed to invest and own downstream, right? So, fortunately, in that environment, there's actually going to be a lot of pubs and restaurants that are saved and bailed out by the
Yeah.
big
Taking a pit
guys.
stop. Carry on, Bruce.
Cheers.
Phil says there's not enough love. You go for a piss, Mark. Okay, not enough love and respect not enough love and respect for South African craft beer in the world. Definitely not. No, I mean, it's not. We're not a nation that people talk about really when you talk about craft beer yet. But hopefully we'll get there.
30 days. We will get
Yeah,
there.
exactly. Bruce, you're falling apart, buddy. Francis, that was ages ago. Sorry, Bruce.
Oh, it's the
trying to-
chair.
I'm trying to read. Yeah, trying to read questions on a Mac here, and I don't know how.
We
Mac.
play cricket with it sometimes.
That's a mash paddle. That is a.
I've
That is a
fixed it
mash.
multiple times. I love this chair.
Trevor misses Captain Pants. Bruce, David says that your Acre Stout would sell well in the UK. I think it would. I mean, like that's a beer perfect for that market. Start exporting,
Yep.
Bruce.
Yep.
You're cheap
Cool.
as well. You can sell it for like £5. Ooh, where's my sound come from there?
You're on a loop.
I heard myself again.
Thanks, Dave. Appreciate the
Welcome.
compliment, man.
Hester's
Yeah,
drinking
good work.
Steph's Hoppy Wheat. That's a great beer. You brewed the last batch, eh?
Yes. Yep. The last couple of batches of Steph's beers were brewed at Stellies Brewery, Stellies Brewing Company. And yeah, we hope to see those beers soon, Steph, again, fresh.
Yeah, for sure.
I was lucky enough to try some of Steph's delicious barrel-aged beers he's got here at Drifter, and he gifted me a few bottles the other day.
Oh,
Exceptional
nice.
Stuff coming out.
Nice.
I had a couple of those. The red one and the clear one. Phenomenal, eh?
I don't think, there's no names yet. I don't know, Steve, correct me if you're wrong, but a little sneak peek on some delicious barrel stuff.
Yeah.
Yummy.
Cool, guys. Mark's back.
Yay,
I've seen
birthday
him-
boy.
So Brewkeg Tap says he's seen a massive increase in the demand for home bars and kegs instead of supplying commercial beers. Is there an easy way to support craft breweries? So, like, I think as in buying kegs from breweries. I guess
The problem
that
is
could be
a lot
possible.
of people in South Africa don't have the dispensing equipment. It's a big thing in the States where a lot of frat houses or digs, they have kegerators and have a lot of people
Yeah.
do that. It's not a big thing here yet, but hopefully electrical industries can get on board in SCS and we can.
And you guys all have
Yeah.
like party. You guys all have party like festival tap
We have a
scenarios.
few.
I mean, is that
We
something
can,
you
yeah,
might consider renting out?
Yeah,
Sure.
we've got a
problem
bank
is-
of
Talk about that. I'm just going to come back.
a taps that we rent out that we obviously use mostly for festivals, but then when we're not festivaling, they're available. And then we've also got a partnership at the moment, and I think there's a couple of guys in Joburg like Swagger and Eben from Mad Riot that work with the guys from Real on Tap, and we've kind of said we'll be their partner here in Stellenbosch. So we're very, very excited to, hopefully when people start seeing that the restaurants aren't going to be opening and stuff, that we'll replace some restaurant sales of kegs to homes, and we've got
Those
20 litre
kegerators
options
that
as well.
you put on line, Bruce, look really,
Yeah.
really cool. And then secondly, do you have a bird under your foot that you're currently murdering? Sorry, it's quite loud.
No, it's probably up there.
Oh, okay.
We love
But
our
you're getting your
birds.
dinner ready.
We saw this morning the bird life around Stellenbosch as a result of lockdown is just incredible. I'm becoming a twitcher. We had a gymnogene the other day. We've had like 25 spoon balls fly over us. It's just
Epic.
I love lockdown, except for the impacts on the industry.
It was nice not to do anything for about 4 days in the first week after 7 years of hard work. Yeah, it was quite nice.
I don't know.
Well, I was busy building swings in the brewery and
it's
trying
like
not to lose my
winter.
mind.
Every year we say we're going to do all these little projects when winter comes around, but then you end up hustling so hard during the quieter times just to make ends meet. So yeah, it's I don't know. It's been hectic. It's been crazy.
Natasha says here it'd be great if they could allow online orders for wine and craft beer. And I think, like, are you guys all ready to sell beer online? I can see that
already pre-selling. Yeah, everyone.
Yeah.
I mean, most of us are pre-selling already, but I think it's just see what the regulation says.
Online stores and online orders in this country were not really to the extent of overseas before lockdown, and obviously that's changed a lot, and everyone's looking at that as
I think we're going to have to all work together and partner up and diversify. It's like one of the things we've been thinking about a lot is reaching out to all the local breweries and let's all work together in terms of if people want to come to one stop to order some beers, why don't they order a couple of each of the breweries' beers and we can get delivered together. Not only that, maybe some snacks like some biltong, some chips, some chocolate from the local chocolatiers down there in Woodstock, and just all the craft industries coming together so that it makes it simple for people.
Centralized collection point for everything.
Click and collect, curbside collection.
Curbside collection. I mean, they've friends in Alaska have done it super successfully over the last 2 weeks, and they've been selling like just as much as they were before now with curbside collection.
Wow. Because I mean that's the reason that supermarkets have done so well over this whole thing, is because they are that central sort of area to for the one-stop shop for people to go and get their stuff. But I mean, as personally, I've tried not to support supermarkets as much as possible for the last 2 or 3 years because it's that corporate sort of environment that I try and avoid. You know, I try and buy meat from a responsible source, like a local butcher, and try and
Cranky Fenner or
exactly, yeah, and if you can get that supply happening at breweries, you know, you can go and get your.
I mean, I've been thinking about new business ideas after this whole thing. I'm thinking of sort of supplying cows to people. So if you've got a little bit of space in your back garden, you only need 2 square meters. I'll supply you a cow, and then I'll even come 3 months later and slaughter it for you and give you all the meat. New business.
Aren't you a vegan?
Yeah.
But you can slaughter it, you just can't eat it. Is that right?
I'm just kidding.
Cheers, guys. I think it's a pretty good time to wrap that up. I really appreciate the 3 of you.
Nice one, Nick. You just killed the conversation.
Sorry.
I was actually thinking we'd end it on you, Marc, but
I think it's all been taken care of, Michael.
No, Marc's going to have the last comment, please.
No. I need more contemplation time. Come back to me in 3 weeks. I'll tell you what life is about.
I'm looking forward to the end
birthday,
of this.
bro.
Thank you. I'm gonna take all my clothes off now and dance around my house naked and have a couple of more beers.
Lovely.
Maybe
leave the camera on.
I've got this bad boy. Check this one out.
What have you got? Final beer.
Oh yeah.
Hey, how you doing, bro?
There you go, bro. But agility. I'm gonna get agile tonight. Yeah, that's what I'm gonna happen. So it's all set to be dirty. Let's go.
I can't wait for the end of this, and we can start drinking Nipas from Riot, and then we can really rub Marc's face in it about how great a beer style a Nipa.
I hope he wins the next African Beer Cup with that Nipa. That'll be the best thing ever.
Be amazing.
Then we can all boo him as he goes on stage.
That'll be the worst, right? If 6'9".
Heckle the fuck out of him. Thanks a lot for joining us, guys. I really appreciate
Cheers,
the time.
One more thing. We've got to also say thank you to you, Mike, for always selflessly encouraging our wonderful trade and for supporting our industry. Thank you, Mike.
Selflessly,
you did get the last say. Well done.
Selflessly, but I just do it as an excuse to drink beer. You know, it's not that selfless.
Cheers, Mike. Thank you.
Beautiful,
Thanks for
Mike.
joining, guys.
Thanks, man.
Please don't forget to comment below in the actual comments section. So if anyone's watching this on repeat. On the time zone, Megan mentioned that 5 p.m. might be more suitable in the future. If you can give some say on that, that'll be awesome. And then join us again next Friday. We have some awesome guests lined up, and I'll release them next week. But until then, and it's a public holiday Friday as well, so drink lots of beer. Cheers, guys.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Ciao, guys. Cheers.